Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tomorrow's Weather Today. I am Jacob, and here we are again talking about Invest 9DL. So, little has changed from yesterday, except that formation in the next 2 days is at 80%, and so is the next 5 days. According to the National Hurricane Center, according to satellite data, um, the trough of low pressure that is south of Florida is still disorganized and has changed very little today. And they are calling for gradual development as it gets to the north of the Bahamas. So, looking at satellite here, we can see it's very disorganized. Yesterday, there was a mid level center that was um, down here produced by thunderstorms and has been sheared off. Um, Today, you can see that there's a lot of shear down here with these thunderstorms and the tops of the clouds being blown off that way um, towards the northeast. Um, Today, it's still very disorganized, as you can see. The trough of low pressure, you can see that we have winds coming up like this and then wrapping around like that and like that. So your trough axis is probably something like that, um, and centered like around there. Um, Going to the water vapor loop, you can see that there is an upper level trough right in here. This upper level trough was over the panhandle of Florida yesterday and is now um, moved into the Gulf of Mexico, and it is down here right now, and it will probably come on top of Invest 90L when it is to the east of Florida. So, because we are more into this, we do have more track intent or more intensity models on this, and all of them are bringing it up to tropical storm strength for the most part at some point in its life. And then looking at the track, it certainly has shifted more to the west today. It was definitely more um, out east in open Atlantic, but now Model Guidance has shifted it back towards the west a little more towards the Carolina coast. It doesn't look like it's going to be that strong, and there's going to be very little impacts from 90L on the Carolinas, but it's still something to watch as it is going to make a close run by of the Carolinas. Now, let's look at the models here. We're going to start off with the GFS. You can see here that here's our trough of low pressure in here like this. And then we're going to take it a few out. It's weak, and it's all weighted on the eastern side, all the precipitation like we were talking about yesterday. And then it moves up, and it gets very close to the Outer Banks of North Carolina as a 990, a mid 990 millibar low. Most of the strongest winds are going to remain offshore with this, and then it moves out, and then it gets entangled up. Actually, this is it now. It's moved out here, but there is a low pressure system hanging over the northeast United States. Um, and like I said, it moves out. If we go look at the uh, wind here, you can see that it's still a tropical depression as it moves up, and then it gets some stronger winds that are weighted on the eastern side. Um, and none are on the western side, thankfully, for the Outer Banks. And then it moves off, like I said. Um, let's go to the 850 millibar winds. So I learned this from watching a video. Levi Cowan, he's the owner of TropicalTidbits.com, and he makes hurricane videos during hurricane season about ongoing storms that could affect the land. And I learned this from him yesterday. Here's our low pressure cyclonic spin. Right here is a warm front. You can see that we have shifting winds, which is causing the vorticity come here. So you have southerly winds, and then you have basically east winds. So this is baroclinic, and in order for this to be fully tropical, there can't be any fronts with this. So we move it along, and that front is going to lift north. And so here's our low pressure. Here's our warm front of some sort, and then it kind of lifts off to like here, and it kind of detaches. So I wouldn't. There's possible that it does become tropical at some point, And then it moves off, like I said. What's going to take this, that's not going to allow us to come in? So this high pressure system is trying to force it north, and the stronger it would push it, the high pressure would push it more towards the west, towards the coast. But then you got this trough coming in, which is going to drag the system outwards, thankfully. If this did come on shore, there probably would be some um, heavy downpours for the Carolinas and some heavy rain. So up here at 500 millibars, there's not really, um, you don't really see the warm front. Maybe it's a little right here as pointed out by the vorticity, but it doesn't really look like it. There's some winds that are turning there. And then we're going to go to, I'll show you the 200 millibar winds. This is going to show, so you can see here, our system is here. Here's this upper trough that I was talking about. Also courtesy to Levi Cowan on that too, because I didn't notice that yesterday at first, and then he pointed it out. So here's the upper level trough, and here's the low pressure system. The low pressure system's in there. So there is light winds above it, so this could be helping with this formation, with this forming. So wind shear does not look to be that bad of a problem right now. You can see there's like some wind shear um, coming on top of the system. So looking at the satellite, the suggested satellite simulated brightness, you can see that it doesn't look great for any part of its life. It's all weighted. In here, you can see some of that wrapping around here, and then the dry air coming in here. Um, with this warm front, it's going to try to bubble it off and become warm core, which is needed for a tropical system. If we take an area sounding, let's go back to, if we take an area sounding of this, we could see that there is some wind shear as winds are turning with height. It's weak though. Um, it's very weak actually. Only 1 to 17 SRH values. And you do have Cape, which is conducive for thunderstorm development, which is good, which is needed. Or it's not really good, but it's needed when you're looking for tropical development. Total shears from 200 to 850 millibars, 14 knots. That's pretty weak, thankfully. So let's look at the CMC here, the Canadian model. Again, here's your trough of low pressure. It's gonna this one the CMC moves it closer to the Outer Banks than the GFS, but it does eventually bring it offshore. And now let's go over to pivotalweather.com and look at the European. So once again, we know where our system is. We're going to move it along, and it keeps it pretty weak, and it keeps it the farthest off the coast, which we want. We don't want systems coming onshore and making landfall. We don't want damage. We don't want flooding, especially on the Carolina coast where they've had major flooding in the past few years, um, which and we don't want that again. It's, and so overall, let's hope that this stays offshore, and an Air Force reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to go in tomorrow morning if necessary. So if they see signs of a low level center on satellite, they will send one in. That is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.